Who do you see? Do you focus on those who are beautiful, powerful, or successful? What about those who you do not see, or perhaps don't want to see? The invisible, ignored, or abused. House of Peace is a safe environment for women and families in need. We offer support through temporary housing that creates a more secure future for them and their children. Jesus shared a story about a man traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho. He was attacked by thieves, beaten, and left for dead. Two men each saw the wounded man, yet passed him by on the other side of the road. A third man, a Samaritan, tended to the man's wounds and brought him to the inn. The Samaritan paid the innkeeper to continue the man's care with a promise to repay any further expenses. Jesus' story shows the Samaritan as the merciful neighbor and reminds us that love is action. We often focus on the action of the Samaritan, but do you see the innkeeper? Are you the innkeeper?
When I get that reaction from someone like, I want you out,
where am I going to go next?
It's not like I'm like, how could you do this? It's more like, yeah, this is what I deserve.
What is my purpose?
I was ready to do whatever I needed to do so I could get to where I need to be.
It was very difficult living from day to day, wondering how I was going to make it.
When I interviewed with Sue, and she said that a lot of the women that stay here had found housing in the first month. That gave me a lot of hope.
I believe that God had a better plan for me, and that things were going to work out.
Every day before used to be dark, no matter what. It was just black and dreary, and now I feel like I finally see color, which is really weird, but that's honestly how it feels now. It's just brighter and yeah.
There are many in need. Can you see yourself as a compassionate innkeeper, walking and leading beside them?
Hi, Sue. Welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Tell me, right off, how did the House of Peace start and why?
The House of Peace started in 2016. It was due to a personal loss.
Okay.
We lost our son in 13.
What happened to him?
He died.
Why? Did you do that?
Yeah. He had a seizure and then went into cardiac arrest. Okay, and through our grieving process, my husband told me he couldn't live in our house anymore. So we lived there 24 years, raised all of our children and our grandchildren. And so we thought, okay, God must be taking us on a different journey. So we put the house on the market. Little did we know how fast it would sell. It sold in a week. And the house that we're in now was only on the market for 1 day.
Okay.
So when we made the offer, it's like, okay, what are we going to do with this house? It's almost 3 times the square footage of what we had.
Okay.
And so we were at church one Sunday, and they were doing a sermon on the Good Samaritan. And my husband and I looked at each other, and we can be the innkeeper.
Cool.
So I thought, okay, bed and breakfast maybe. We used to foster children. Do we want to do that? And no. What we do is we take care of the lost and broken.
Okay.
We moved into the house July of 2016. We took in our first house guest November of 2016.
Why do you call them guests?
Because it is, you know, when you are a guest in someone's house, you feel special. Okay? You are a guest in a hotel, in a bed and breakfast, or when you go out for dinner. I want to compliment them from the very beginning. They are not a client. They are a house guest.
And what type of house guest? I mean, is it explain?
100% of my women come from domestic violence.
Okay.
We have served in 8 years of being a nonprofit. We have served over 285 women and 192 children.
Wow. And it's all been a success story for these people?
Well, no.
No? Okay.
No. Just like everything else in life, we're given a free will. And they are given this opportunity to change their life over. In 2023, we physically housed 14 families. We serviced 54 women. And out of those 14 families, we helped rehouse 10 of those families.
Nice. Now, how much room do you have in your House of Peace for people at one time?
In my house, we can have up to 12 people. In our second house, we have room for 6.
So you have 2 houses.
We have 2 houses, and we are looking to open a 3rd house by the end of this year.
And where will that, or do you,
We have been asked to open one in Oconomowoc.
okay,
Whether that comes to fruition, I never know.
okay,
Just like when the second house came to us, we had no idea. We don't go looking for the opportunity comes to us.
Now, what percentage of the women that come to you are, I know you say they're from battered homes, but what percent do you think is alcohol and drugs involved?
Oh, all of them.
All of them?
Addiction is an angry beast. It really is. We noticed it right after COVID, is when our numbers went up 75%.
That's across the board everywhere.
Yeah, our women have come from 18 different states,
Wow.
29 zip codes, and 3 different countries.
And how did they find you?
Well, we're
Besides your website.
yeah, it's through word of mouth.
Wow.
People who come from a different state know somebody who lives in Wisconsin, and that's their first connection. Then they Google us, they find us. Our process is that we do a slight assessment over the phone. I have a team of volunteers who help me do the intake, and that takes an hour, half, 2 hours long. And then we have to run a background check.
Well, obviously, yeah.
Yeah, because these families are invited to live in my home with me. So we have to make sure everyone is safe. We have helped women right out of prison. We have helped women who are in the middle of an AODA program, who have a record. We see the sincerity in their heart, and we want to give them the opportunity. Last year, we had 10% of our women did not make it through our program.
Wow. How did they not make it through? What?
Well, their addiction took
Okay.
them.
Okay.
They know right away that we are a drug, alcohol, and weapon free. We do periodic breathalyzers and drug tests.
Okay.
They are told at the intake if you draw positive for drugs or if you blow anything with the breathalyzer, that is an immediate out.
Okay.
And so just about a month ago that had happened to a young woman, and she chose the alcohol over sobriety and over her children.
Did her children stay, or?
No, her
No.
children are with a family member.
Okay, okay. Now, before the House of Peace was open, was there anything in the state like this that you know?
Not, not the way we do it, no.
Okay. How is it any different from?
Well, what we do is our first focus is building that trust relationship.
Okay.
Because these women are so battered and are so traumatized,
Right.
and their children, we have to build that relationship. Within the 2 weeks of coming, they have to be working full time, and they see a counselor almost immediately. Mental health care is the common denominator between homelessness and abuse.
Yeah, I believe that.
And so we also do mental health care workshops every other month.
Nice.
That is mandatory. We work with 2 clinics, one here in Watertown and one in Oconomowoc. And their clinicians facilitate our workshops. I work and bring the community to surround my women, to equip them and educate them so that they can start over.
So you help them to get jobs. You help
Oh,
them to
absolutely.
get a new place
Yep.
to live. How long can they stay in your facility before they have to move on?
Well, that is a case-by-case basis. Single moms really have a hard time keeping a job. If their children are sick and they have to call in, then they will eventually lose their job. We are still working with a family, and they have been with us 3 years. We had a family who just moved into their own apartment in February. They were with us 7 months. We currently have 2 guests who have been with us 6 months, and 1 guest 6 weeks.
Now, when they do move out, do you keep in contact with them to see how they're doing or?
Well, it depends.
Yeah.
A lot of them want to close this chapter on
Okay,
their
I
life.
understand, yeah.
So I give them 2 weeks to kind of relax, enjoy their apartment. When our house guests get their keys, we have an interior design team that goes in and totally furnishes their apartment.
Awesome. And where do you get the funding for that?
It's all donated.
Really?
It is all donated. We have a retired doctor and his wife and their team. They put the word out. For example, we needed a bunk bed to put in one of our houses. And one of her friends who live in California ordered one through Amazon and had it delivered.
Wow.
So it's all through word of mouth.
That is awesome.
They hang pictures. They supply all the kitchen stuff. And if there's time, they fill their pantry.
That is awesome. That is
And they have done, I want to say, 8 apartments for us
nice.
in the 8 years that we have been a nonprofit. We're in a housing crisis right now.
Yeah.
Because our single women live a hair above the poverty line and rents are going up,
Yes, I know.
they can't afford a $1,200 payment. So what we do is we work with the landlords, and they rent to the House of Peace. And then they like what we do, so we sub-rent to our women.
Okay.
And so
Explain the sub rent. I mean, I know, do you give them a
a break.
A break, okay.
Yes. So, for example, I'm going to use a scenario here. If a landlord rents a house to us at $1,200 a month, that's not including utilities
Yep,
or
yep,
Wi-Fi.
yep.
So you've got to figure, to keep it running, it's about $1,800. So our goal is to put 2 or 3 women or 2 families.
I see, yeah.
Okay, it's all about co-living. They start out that way by coming to the House of Peace.
Yeah, so they're used to it.
They are used to it. And so this model has worked.
Good.
So in our second house, we've had, right now, currently, we have 2 families in there, and each one of them pay rent, and that is enough to cover the expenses of what we have to pay.
Okay.
So we manage the house for the landlord. I write for the grants to pay for the rent. We are a nonprofit. We get no state, federal, or county help. It's all donations. We have wonderful donors. And the United Way, the Darcy Foundation, just to name a couple of them. And this is a need in our community.
So you're still looking for donations. You never really have enough.
Oh, heavens no.
Okay.
Heavens no. Our budget is about $102,000 a year. Last year I raised $104,000.
Cool.
Yeah, so that kind of put me a little bit ahead.
Yeah.
You know, yes, we are a nonprofit. We're not supposed to make money, but you always want to be a little bit ahead.
Yeah, because you never know what's
We never know what the expenses will be. Daycare is a huge thing.
Now that's the thing with the people, with the women living in your houses.
Mm-hmm.
Do they have to outsource daycare when they're at work?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
We don't provide daycare, but the county doesn't pay for all of the daycare.
So you cover the rest?
So we help them cover the rest.
Wow, that's amazing.
Last year, we paid over $12,000
Wow.
in daycare, childcare needs, children's needs. That covers everything.
Wow.
Yeah. We want to, like I said before, educate our moms. We want them to be a good example to their children.
Well, of course, of course. When you started, how did you, I'm trying to think of the question, I'm getting lost here, sorry. So you feel like you've done what you wanted to achieve when you opened the houses?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. You know, when we heard the Good Samaritan story in church, we really feel that God was speaking to us and that this was a need. My husband and I were foster parents for 10 years. We had over 50 children cross our path in that time period in the 80s and the 90s. We had to stop to take care of our own children.
Right.
And the need is always there for help. And my husband and I, we are not equipped with everything. This is why we bring the community, the doctors, the clinicians, the teachers, the mentors. Each woman who comes has a therapist, a mentor, and a teacher.
What background do you have that brought you to this point?
I don't have a background.
Okay.
I am a retired lunch lady.
Wow.
Yes. I worked for Watertown High School for 18 years. I cooked. I don't remember the numbers, but it had to have been close to a couple thousand. Because we cooked all the food at the high school, and we transported it out to all the public schools and a couple of private ones. And little did I know, when I retired from the school district in 2014, I would be doing this.
How does it feel to have these people all living in your house?
I love it.
So I mean, it must be scary to begin with when you first bring the new people
No.
in? No?
We have no fear whatsoever.
You haven't had any in-house problems that, I mean,
Well, you know, there is always going to be a problem. This is why our intake is so thorough. This is why we do a background check. We get and check references. So our in-home policy is when they get 3 strikes, when a house guest gets 3 strikes, then they are asked to leave. So it is not a one and done kind of thing. It's an ongoing process. So if somebody really doesn't want to stay there, they'll violate the rules. And they are given the policies and the procedures at the intake. So they know that there's a curfew, there is security. We do everything to keep them safe. Both of our houses have cameras, so we know who's coming and going.
now when you're in the house and interacting like with meals and stuff, is the meals all as a group or is it separate or?
You know, sometimes they are and sometimes they're not. It depends. If I see moms a little overwhelmed during the week between juggling a full-time job and then picking kids up from daycare and school and rushing home, I'll make a meal for everybody. And then we all sit down. But my husband and I, we have other things that we do. So we'll always eat either before them or after them. And they have the run of my kitchen. They have their own private bedroom, and everybody shares the bathrooms, the kitchen, the playroom, the dining room, the living room. It's co-living.
And what kind of rules for that co-living do you have specifically?
Well, specifically is children are on a schedule.
Okay.
So when they come home from school, they get a bit of a break and a snack. Then if homework is due, homework is done. Then they get to relax before dinner. And by 7 o'clock, the moms have to have all the children up in the bedrooms. This is what we call downtime. This is where we take away all the screen time. No phones, no iPads, no anything with a screen.
So that is left
That
somewhere
is
else?
left to the moms. And so that's where the cuddle time, the reading time, the bath time all come into play. All the kids have to be in bed by 8:30. We have a curfew for 9 p.m. So usually by 7 o'clock, the house is pretty quiet.
What is the age of children that you let in your house?
The oldest we have had were 17.
Okay.
17. And they were pretty respectful teenagers.
That's good.
You know, I don't think we've ever had to ask a teenager to leave.
That's good. That's awesome.
We've always had to ask the moms, and then she would have to take the children with her. But when that happens, the in-house policy is the counselors get a phone call, the social workers get a phone call, and everybody knows that this family now again is on the street because of the mom's poor choice.
Okay. Now, do you take teenagers on their own?
They have to be 18 or over.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep. We did that early on, and this wonderful girl, I'm just going to use a fictitious name. Let's call her Anna. We brought her in. Actually, the school district called me and said, "Do you have room for this young lady?" And I said, "Okay, tell me about her." And I knew the teacher, and the teacher knew me from when I worked at the high school. So I went up to the school, I interviewed her. She was a wonderful house guest. She finished and got her degree. She was going to school to be a CNA. She got a job at one of the local facilities here in town. A year later, she got her own apartment and her own car. At 18 years old, and she came out of an abusive situation. So there are all these I could probably write a book with all the wonderful stories that we have. The family that just moved out in February, she was working full-time. She had 2 kids in high school, and she wanted to go back to school to get a medical coding degree. So here she is, right after Christmas, working full-time, going to school full-time, taking care of the teenagers, and still maintaining everything she needs to do. She moved into her apartment, I think it was shortly after Valentine's Day.
Okay.
And they're doing fantastic. She went down also the road of healthy well-being, and during that time of period she stayed with us, she took off 75 pounds.
Wow.
So to me, that woman deserves a badge. Maintaining, taking care of teenagers, working, going to school. I take my hat off to single moms.
What is on your record for the future for House of Peace?
Our goals are to gain a couple of more houses.
Okay.
We want to really work with landlords. We are looking for volunteers to be mentors, to be teachers. We are looking for, people who just want to donate 6 to 12 hours a week. That's really all we need. I have a team of 15 volunteers. Out of that group, there's about 8 of them that are my core volunteers.
Yeah, it's like that at the Elks.
Yeah,
We have a core group.
Isn't that amazing? And you know what? I would say half of them are over 80.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And one of them is a retired professor, and he fluently speaks 5 different languages.
Wow. That's awesome.
I feel really blessed to have such a team of intelligence. I have volunteers who write stories for our newsletters that come out quarterly.
Nice.
We started doing that 3 years ago, and it generates revenue for us. And so people want to know what's going on. What fundraisers are you doing? May 18th, we're going to be at the Okauchee Lions Club in Okauchee at the park. And we will be selling homemade quilts.
Nice.
And
Are the quilts made by your guests?
no, actually, we have 4 different quilt guilds who make us these beautiful quilts.
Nice.
In 23, we had over 200 quilts donated to us.
Wow.
So when the quilts come in, My women get to pick whatever they want. The children get first pick. And then we usually keep some for the House of Peace. And then we take others and we get them ready to sell. And we sell them, and we, with their permission, of course.
Right.
With the Quilt Guild's permission. And they know that all the funds come back to the House of Peace. And they're gorgeous. They could be in a quilt fair. They're beautiful.
That's awesome.
So that's where the quilts come from. We get a lot of support from the Lake Mills Police Department.
Nice.
This is the 3rd year they're doing Stuff the Squad for us.
Nice.
June 22nd at Real Hope Church in Lake Mills. And then in October, October 12th, we're doing our big major fundraiser. We are hiring a family-friendly comedian. His name is Scott Long.
Okay.
So if you look up scottcomedy.com, you will see what his work is like. And then we are going to also have some secret guests. I'm not saying who because I don't want to ruin the surprise, because who knows? I don't know. But they gave us a wonderful grant this year. They live further north, and it's a team. That's all I can say.
Uh-oh, I think I already know.
And we are ever so excited that things are blending.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the charge is going to be $20 a head, and we're going to have refreshments. We're going to have door prizes. We're going to have baskets to bid on.
Mm-hmm.
So we did this last year, and it was so much fun.
That's good. That's
Oh,
great.
yes. And our goal is to raise $15,000.
Wow, I hope you make it. We will include all of your information when you send it to
Thank
me at
you.
the end of this. And
Okay.
is there anything else you'd like to say before we head out?
No, first of all, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
This is so amazing that you chose the House of Peace. We really, for us, it's the awareness
Right. That's
that we are in this community. I took a leadership class at MATC, and there were 9 businesses from Watertown that didn't even know I existed.
Yep. I didn't know until I don't remember why I looked it up. Oh, it was a comment at one of our Elks meetings that the name came up. And so I thought, oh, I better look this in and get
Yeah.
it on my show.
Yeah, we did a fundraiser at the Elks Club 5 years ago up in your ballroom.
Wow, it's all still
So,
there,
oh, I
baby.
love that ballroom. So thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
anybody who wants to be a part of our team, wants to mentor, wants to donate, please go to houseofpeacewi.org. Yes. And house is spelled H-A-U-S, of peace, wi.org. Thank you.
Thank you for being here with us today. All the information about House of Peace will be added at the end of the show, and we will see you next time. Take care.